Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. This is the 5-minute chart of silver provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. Now, we had this very strange activity that occurred a couple days ago in the silver market. First of all, we have this sell-off, and this is going to be about 2.5%, 2 to 2.5% here. And then a huge rally can be 5%. And this is over the course of roughly 10 hours. So that's absolute insanity. You don't see that in any other market. Of course, then you have here your 175,000 contracts traded in 5 minutes. That's the entire world mining supply traded in 5 minutes. So is this going to be some kind of bottom? I don't know. I was predicting some kind of washout. I was looking for a washout based on the chart. This one doesn't really seem to fit the bill for the type of washout I was looking for. But then again, it might be just too many buyers coming in and they're not able to sell it down below that. So maybe some of you picked up some silver on that pop down below 19, which has recovered very rapidly. Just strange stuff. Now, gold, of course, has been stronger, and it's staying stronger. We know that there's a lot of shenanigans going on in gold, but they're not nearly as vulnerable in gold as they are in silver, and that's why the percentage moves and manipulations are so much worse in silver. Now, the Chinese, we're going to look at the Chinese currency here in this article from Zero Hedge, but the Chinese currency has been losing value, not really a lot when you think about it, because you got about 0.25 change from the low here, if that. So 0.25 goes into 6, 24 times. So 24 times, that's 4%, maybe 4% move. Consider that we had a 5% move within 10 hours in silver, and this doesn't seem to be that much of a move. But they're making a big deal about it, and this is on Zero Hedge. The title of the article is "Someone is Betting that the Chinese Currency Collapsed by the End of 2014." Collapses. So I'm not going to read through this. I've commented on this issue before, but what's interesting to me is this comment down here. And this is Russell Napier saying, quote, "Mercantilist alchemy transmutes China's external surpluses into foreign exchange reserves and renminbi. But with capital outflows from China at record highs, those surpluses are only maintained due to its citizens' foreign currency borrowing. Bank reserve and M2 growth are already near historical lows and are driving tighter monetary policy. This will lead to severe credit quality issues and force the authorities to accept a credit crunch or opt for a major devaluation of the renminbi. They will do the latter, and despite 5 years of QE, the world will get deflation anyway." So what's interesting is this guy's calling for a devaluation of the Chinese currency. Again, this is losing about 4% or so. But it's been on a long, you have to remember the chart. That chart is not long enough term. It's been on a long decline since about 2006, from 8.3 down to 6. So really, this bounce in terms of the decline is very tiny. It's just striking because, first of all, there really hasn't been a bounce in this for the longest time. And the other reason is because of the arguments that are made. Again, the arguments are made that the Chinese are currency manipulators and that they're keeping their currency artificially weak to give them an advantage, a trading advantage. So now that their currency is going the other way, and this trend is actually what the Americans were requesting, it's just that for them it wasn't fast enough. The dollar was not losing value fast enough against the Chinese currency. What's interesting is now that this is going on, it's moving the other direction. I don't think it will last, really. I don't think that the wealth of China is decreasing and the wealth of the United States is increasing. Quite the opposite. The wealth of the United States is rapidly diminishing and the wealth of China is rapidly increasing. So I believe that's ultimately going to be reflected in the currency. Now, this is a story about what's going on in Venezuela. Now, I had predicted a couple of months ago that Maduro probably would be either overthrown, have to step down, or there would be a coup, or something is going to happen. You can see how crazy it's getting. And this is, anyone can predict this who knows anything about markets and socialists slash communists, because they always end the same way. And this is ending the same way. You can see the headline, ration cards. And that's what you get when you don't have free markets. You get rationing. Ration cards block long food lines as inflation rate in Venezuela hits 60%. The Bolivarian Socialist Revolution has claimed the lives of 41 Venezuelans. By the way, this is from Breitbart. 41 Venezuelans and forced thousands of others to suffer long lines in supermarkets for basic needs. Long lines. Why long lines? Because they don't have free markets anymore. They're not allowed to raise prices. While the political situation in the country remains dire, the economic situation continues to worsen. Venezuela's inflation rate reached 60% this month. According to Infobay, prices on common goods increased 4.1% in March, with rates increasing 59.4% between March 2013 and March 2014. The numbers are late because the Venezuelan government is late on reporting them, reporting March's inflation statistics 15 days later than the legal requirement imposed by the Chavista government on themselves. There's no indication that the individuals running the Venezuelan Bureau of Economic Statistics will receive any punishment for delaying the release of such information. The individual statistics for products the Venezuelan government is struggling to import are even more troubling. Venezuelan newspaper El Universal reports that 19 products have been placed on a scarcity list, meaning their availability in the nation is limited. These include vegetable oil, wheat flour, milk, coffee, sugar, canned sardines, pork, and butter, along with 11 other products. Yes, that's true. Communists end up starving people to death. They did it under Stalin in the Soviet Union. Mao starved as many as 40 million people. Communists end up starving people to death. That's the reality. A number of these other rare products are derivatives of these. Margarine, which is on the list, is made of vegetable oil, and a number of milk products are also running out. The government did not provide any potential solutions to the problem. Yeah, the potential solution to the problem is to throw this madman, Nicolas Maduro, out of there and to institute free markets. President Nicolas Maduro has taken to the airwaves heavily in recent weeks to blame the scarcity of basic goods on American imperialism. This week, Maduro launched a second economic offensive, a term he prefers relative to his description of the economic downturn as a war. The offensive would require business owners to significantly lower the prices of goods and would focus on punishments for individuals on the western border with Colombia who have been buying and trading goods on the black market. So, of course, people are reacting to price controls and market controls by trading on the black market. Nope. he's got to shut that down too. And the last little bit of free market, probably the only way that goods are actually getting into the country are the black markets. Many capitalist observers have condemned the program for its focus on fines and punishments for those in the middle class trying to survive the economic depression without offering solutions to satisfy the demand for goods like sugar and flour. Maduro also recently imposed ration cards on Venezuelan buyers. Ration cards, like they're at war. Denying Venezuelans the right to buy as much of a product as they would need. The ration cards, an idea taken from the Cuban government, were widely received with jeers both in Venezuelan streets and by the international community. Along with the ration cards, Maduro has forced grocery store owners to install fingerprint identification technology to prevent people from cheating the ration system and has begun forcing store owners to sell their businesses. So, yeah, this guy's not going to be around much longer. Probably a very, very good thing for the people of Venezuela. That guy is truly a madman. Makes Chavez look rational. And if you think we only have madmen in Venezuela, here's a story. This is another one from Breitbart. These nutcase scientists, and they're not scientists. They're actually just propagandists for whatever left-wing cause, the latest left-wing cause. But here's expose on global warming. Former NASA scientist, global warming is nonsense. A former NASA scientist has described global warming as nonsense, dismissing the theory of man-made climate change as an unsubstantiated hypothesis. Boy, isn't that the case. Ridiculous. Back in the 1970s, they had, I think it was Ehrlich, they had limits to growth. We were going to run out of everything and all this stuff. Had this peak oil theory, which is a bunch of nonsense. And markets can solve all this stuff if they just release the free markets and get the government out of there. We probably already have all kinds of cheap energy, but that's not going to happen because governments love to interfere in markets. And saying that it is absolutely stupid to blame the recent UK floods on human activity. You see that with these people when you get an unusually cold winter. I've seen this happen a number of times, and people say, well, I thought we were supposed to have global warming. Why do we have the coldest winter on record? And their reply is, well, that's global warming. Okay, so the coldest winter is caused by global warming. So you can't even talk to these people. They don't even make any sense. Professor Les Woodcock, who has had a long and distinguished academic career, also said there is no reproducible evidence that carbon dioxide levels have increased over the past century, and blamed the green movement, and you know the saying, they're watermelons. They're green on the outside, but they're reds on the inside, for inflicting economic damage on ordinary people. Professor Woodcock is Emeritus Professor of Chemical Thermodynamics at the University of Manchester and has authored over 70 academic papers. Now, I don't put a lot of stock in, this is what the left and the environmentalists do. They love to scream their credentials about stuff that's utter nonsense, and they tell us that it's science, but they just all read each other's articles in these journals that they belong to, and it's all just a bunch of hocus pocus. So I don't really pay any attention to these flattering titles of these guys who've authored all these papers, but clearly he's at least one of them as far as academia goes. He's received a PhD from the University of London and is a fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry, a recipient of Max Planck Society Visiting Fellowship, and a founding editor of the Journal of Molecular Simulation. Professor Woodcock told the Yorkshire Evening Post, quote, "The term climate change is meaningless. The Earth's climate has been changing." Isn't that crazy? Can you believe that? Climate change. That's it was, I don't know if you remember, it was the hole in the ozone. You remember that one? Which is just absolutely asinine because the poles where the sunlight is the least during certain seasons, of course, you're going to see a lack of ozone. There, not a hole in the ozone. Ozone is caused by sunlight hitting oxygen, which turns O2 into O3. But of course, it's nonsense. And they dropped that. And then they had global warming, but they had to drop that. So now their term is climate change, which is just plain stupid because we know that climates change. That's crazy. The Earth's climate has been changing since time immemorial. That is, since the Earth was formed 1,000 million years ago. No, I don't agree with that. The theory of man-made climate change is unsubstantiated hypothesis. Our climate, which says it has been adversely affected by the burning of fossil fuels in the last 100 years, causing the average temperature on the Earth's surface to increase very slightly, but with disastrous environmental consequences. The theory is that CO2 emitted by burning fossil fuel is the greenhouse gas causes global warming. In fact, water is a much more powerful greenhouse gas, and there is 20 times more of it in our atmosphere, around 1% of the atmosphere, whereas CO2 is only 0.04%. There is no reproducible scientific evidence CO2 has significantly increased in the last 100 years. He also said even the term global warming does not mean anything unless you give it a time scale. The temperature of the Earth has been going up and down for millions of years. If there are extremes, it's nothing to do with carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It's not permanent and it's not caused by us. Global warming is nonsense. And I agree, of course it's nonsense. It's just the leftists and I'm sure there's people on the right as well. It's the totalitarian, environmentalist, fascist, Nazi, communist, call them whatever you want to call them. They're people who want to control your life, and they're not getting enough power fast enough to control your life, so they have to make up crazy stories. They clearly have that sort of thing happening now in Venezuela. It's not going to be much longer now because this madman in power. I predict that within the month, this Maduro, within 1 month from today, this Maduro will be out of power. But back to the silver chart. Silver is still, let's go way out and look at the monthly, because we've got that formation of that MACD, that very, very, very long pattern that we've got forming in the MACD. The biggest divergence, let's just draw the general trend here. The biggest divergence of all we've got in this oversold condition of silver, and we're expecting a washout. This may have been it. If not, we're going to get a washout, probably take all the longs out and then turn around, and then we're going to get that crossover, and when we do, we're going to get an explosive rally. And we'll talk to you next time.